And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Shifting Lanes Garage live show, aka the Shifting Lanes Garage podcast. More on that hopefully later in the stream. My name is Chad. That is the Gregson. And he is going to tell you all about his things.
Welcome to the stream, everyone. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you're here for the first time, and just joining us because you watch one of our reels, because you watch one of our reels, memes, or whatever, one of our memes, or whatever. You guys stay and enjoy. You guys stay and enjoy. And there's lots to talk about. And I have lots to talk about on my phone. I have topics on my phone that we're going to talk about tonight. One of them involves the 240 EV. As a Nissan potential revival of that. We're also going to talk about the new Modificata, which is basically that Ferrari-looking race car for the road. That's a thing you can buy or rent from Ferrari and rent. Go around and race it on a track. Go around and race it on a track. It's weird. It's cool. It's weird. We'll talk about that as well. It's weird. We'll talk about that as well. There's also an interesting news article that I stream. That is going to talk about. EVs are becoming harder. EVs are becoming harder to sell. So we're also going to talk about that. So thank you guys for joining. Appreciate you. I'm trying to get into the back end of Facebook at the same time as doing. Today, just because why not? It's a great week for technical issues because it's technical issues and last minute stuff is basically the name of the game right now. So welcome. Thank you guys for joining. Who is here, everyone? Get us comments. Comment in the comments. Doug, is it echo for everyone? Doug, is it echo for everyone? Good question. I'm not sure. Good question. Triage that when Chad comes back. I'm alone right now because I think Chad is doing something that his dog is annoying him. So I think the dog probably is annoying him. So I think the dog probably has to go out. Have you guys seen any of the SEMA? Let's chat about that for a little bit. There is some pretty crazy SEMA builds this with his flooded P1 he's got it's not finished but yesterday what is it? It's a Jaguar E-Type. It's a Jaguar E-Type with fender flare creations. But it has a 2JZ. It has a 2JZ with a turbo on it, with a BorgWarner turbo on it. It's pretty insane. So yeah. There's some pretty. There's always some gnarly stuff. But it's pretty awesome this year. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing today? What are you guys doing this week? You guys working on anything? You guys working on anything? Doug, thanks for joining as always. And you have a million projects. What are you working on, my friend? What are you working on, my friend? Oh no! Double stars for double the audio. Apparently I'm echoing like crazy. Apologies. I don't know why that's happening. Let me check my audio settings. On my end. Maybe it's me. I don't think so. Looks like it's on Chad's end. I'm letting him know. Oh man. Anyway, what are you guys? How's everyone's week going? Please comments. The whole reason we do this is so. You guys see me? Because I'm having real bad issues over here on my end. It's probably me. Sorry for the double audio. We know the reason. And Chad's gonna fix it as soon as he gets back. Doug, I got my shop water empty for the winter today. That's about the same. Yeah, it's about the same. See you, but freeze for a moment. Yeah, I'm having some Yeah, I'm freezing a lot over here. I'm freezing a lot over here. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe turn this off. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help. I'm trying to turn Wi-Fi off on every device that I own, just to help with the potential of me being online for you guys. We'll see if that worked. So we'll see if that worked. Let's just hope so. Yeah, I have nothing until Chad gets back, which is usually weird because I have lots to say. Not this week. Not this week. It's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy job. So with the job, it's one of those things where I don't really have a lot to bring to the table currently, unfortunately. But we do have a lot to talk about, especially with the SEMA stuff. The SEMA stuff that's been going on is insane. Yes, Justin, we know there's an echo. As soon as Chad is done with his dog, he's taking the dog for a walk. We're gonna fix the issue. So I'm actually gonna go on mute while Chad.
Greg has a voice so nice you want to hear it twice.
Yeah, there we go. Echo is fixed. Chad has fixed the echo, but my freezing's not going very well. Not sure what's going on with that.
Technology, it's the mother of all things. I have a PC that's on its last legs, or I hope it isn't, but that'll be fixed one way or the other come next Monday. So
yep.
But hello everyone. Wait, is it Thursday? I don't know.
No, it's not. It's Wednesday.
Anywho, I see, just real quick, I see Doug, Christian, Justin, all in chat. What's up, fellas? Sorry for my delayed arrival. You can thank my...
all good.
You can thank my mother's dog for that one. Dude is chill every night, except for this one. So, yeah. Anywho...
he's just chill every night because you don't notice him. But when you want to do something, you notice him.
Oh my gosh.
Let's talk about cars.
Yeah, let's do that. So much more entertaining and interesting than. By the way, if you see me looking in this direction, I rearranged my setup in preparation for said new PC. So. Usually I have it set so my monitor's over here, so it looks like I'm talking to Greg when I say stuff. So, I guess I could flip my...
Not today.
I guess I could flip my image, but at any rate. In anywho... Where's that?
Anywho...
So, this thing, to JDM enthusiasts around the world... You'll recognize the Silvia name, or the S chassis, so S13, 14, and 15. The 15 being a JDM car that we didn't get. Powered by the, some would consider it, I do not, legendary SR20 DET motor. Good little motor, just there's better options. Like, I don't know, a K. That if you add boost to, makes way more power than even a from factory boosted SR20. Let's see here. Greg is going to reset his internet. Matt, thanks for the like. So,
guys, I will be right back. My internet is horrible. I'm gonna in a better capacity. So, Chad, all yours. Please just get.
Anywho, while the disjointed voice of Gregson departs us for a moment. So, if you guys didn't know, the Nissan at the Japan Tokyo Mobility Show, or whatever the heck they called it, released the Hyperforce concept, which is their 1,300 horsepower electric GTR of the future type of thing. Which will never make it to production. An EV of that type might, but I think JDM purists would riot, similar to, an electric Corvette or Mustang or something that we would over here. But at any rate, Nissan product boss Ivan Espinosa told reporters that an entry-level fun car designed to sit below the Z and GTR could be just what the company needs to re-engage with younger buyers, many of whom don't have the same interest in cars and driving that previous generations do. So if you guys don't know, we've talked about it a bunch here about Doug. Oh, that's from 9 days ago. Whoops. It's I mean, let's put it this way. Toyota's been throwing out a lot of interesting, fun cars. They've produced the Corolla, the GR Corolla, the GR86, the Supra. We're not going to go down the BMW road on that. But at any rate, the Toyota lineup is filled with fun little cars. Nissan has the top tier topping GTR. It has the Z. And then the Silvia, which used to sit on there, which was, again, traditionally powered by a 4-cylinder turbo. Or over here in the States, we got a KA24, a kind of okay, sort of decent 4-cylinder, but it was NA and didn't really make a lot of power. The Silvia is obviously very popular in the drift community because they were inexpensive, because they were rear-wheel drive, and because basically towards the end of their run, you could shoehorn any engine you wanted into the engine bay. And then, like this said here, that younger generations aren't as interested in cars as we are. Hold on. There we go. So with a small, I mean, this thing looks better than anything Nissan's put out in about a minute. It looks really good. But the guy, Espinosa would continue to say, I think car manufacturers in general have forgotten about the passion for cars. Manufacturers, yes, but keep in mind they are a vehicle, pardon the pun, to sell things. And if the public isn't really going for stuff, they're not going to really be too keen to generate a lot of stuff that isn't selling. So they tout that the return of this potential Silvia is one of those things that could kind of re-engage younger buyers, kind of bring back kind of that enthusiasm that we all had when we were kids and everything like that. You know, one of it could be something like this. One of it could be, they would go on, would be a hot hatch, capable of taking on the GR Corolla and Civic Type R, which is one route, but we have seen time and time again, hot hatches don't last very long here. Not to say that purpose-built two-door sports cars really have much staying power outside of, say, modern Mustangs and, well, this, you know, even like the Z, it went out of production. Came back into production, but it went out. The Supra, same thing. Went out, came back, or whatever. It's sales, right? It's sales driven. Espinosa, however, has a different plan. He's not sure about the hot hatch, but maybe a smaller electric sports car, he told Top Gear. Something smaller, a bit more affordable, definitely. This was another vehicle they released, which I think is it does definitely harkens back to like the Haku, the original sort of GTR, or even a Sentra SER as the article goes on. Nissan did have from years ago an IDX concept, which was supposed to be like a continuation of the Datsun 510, which I thought was pretty cool. I think IDX is actually Roman numerals for 510, if I'm not seriously mistaken. But here's the thing. If you want enthusiasts to be interested in cars, or I'm sorry, if you want a car enthusiasm to younger buyers, having something small and fun is definitely a great way to go about it. Here's the thing. And why hasn't small, little, fun, sporty cars really taken off as much as a lot of people, as most people would have liked, or people in our situation would have liked, is, again, they don't sell a ton of them, and younger people seem to be buying all the crap about having these go lifestyle crossovers, right? Like, there's a reason why, like, Ford made the Bronco, which is a truck, and then they made the Bronco Sport, which is basically a Ford Escape with a body kit and a little bit of off-road parts and everything. It's because they're selling a lifestyle, and more often, younger individuals seem to be buying that than something they deem to be not so much of a toy, but a rear-wheel drive sports car. Even if people like us know that if you take that sports car and put the right tires on it, you can go most places in most weather. Now, granted, if you're in the Great White North, might be a different story. But if it's too snowy for that particular situation, someone who knows what they're doing, someone who has the right tires, you probably shouldn't be out anyway. At any rate, give us more sports cars. I don't even care if it's electric, because frankly, that's the direction everything's going. To have a small, fun, affordable electric car sounds like a great idea to me, just to kind of bridge the gap, because say what you will about electric cars, they can be fun. They're a little bit soulless, but that instant torque is very, very noticeable. And Christian's asking about the price. So if you figure it's going to sit below a Z, figure in the 30-ish price range, $35,000-ish price range would be my guess. But Greg is back.
Hello. Can you all hear me? Am I doubling on the audio again?
No, the audio was. So I'll give you a little.
No, I know. I know it was on the Streamlabs end.
Right. The double audio is so when I have the desktop audio coming through, it's not. The audio for the stream is coming through Skype directly into the software, and onto the stream. But Skype is still running in the background and has its own audio, and it's actually either slightly ahead or it's actually slightly delayed compared to what the stream sees, because the stream software takes priority. So that's why the echo is. And I use Streamlabs to like record stuff, whether it be gameplay, whether it be stuff off the internet, whether it's stuff for content, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why it was on. I forgot it was on because my little snot of a dog was like, hey, I know you just took me out 10 minutes ago, but yeah.
Do it again.
Yeah. I'm looking like I might just decide to pee all over everything, so your call.
Yeah, of course.
So, but I kind of went over everything. Feel free to ask questions away. But your thoughts on an all-electric two-door sports car that looks something like this, which I think, if you told me this was, I think this almost looks better than the new Z, which looks really, really good. But granted, if you told me any of the Nissan sports cars were going to look like this, I'd call it a win. But what do you think?
Yeah. First off, hello, Andrew, over on YouTube. Thank you for joining. Honestly, Chad, bring it back. Where'd it go?
Oh, shoot. Doug's comment almost got me in trouble there. I can't wait until this third monitor is up and running.
No, I agree with. I only caught the last part of what you were saying, but yes, bring us more sports cars. If it's gonna be an EV sports car, cool, bring it on. I'm fine with that. And considering what we heard from Jason Camisa last week or the week before about the Lucid Air Sapphire performance, whatever it is, about how it's the best handling car he's ever driven. Again, handling being very different than grip. I mean, the future isn't going to suck. Like gearheads aren't going away. We're going to figure out a way to make EVs a lot more fun than they are right now. Like, EVs just happened in the last 10 years. Like in mass quantities. Let's look back into the early 1900s when cars became very popular. In the first 10 years of mass popularity, they kind of sucked and could only go like 20 miles an hour. So give it some time. Like, EVs are gonna. I mean, and there are a lot of them are already pretty amazing. Like that one Kia, what is it? The EV6. Mm-hmm. is faster than a Lamborghini Huracan to 60, and a lot of them can basically do a 4-wheel burnout and drift. Like, there's good stuff from EVs, trust me. If it looks like this, yes. Just like that, the Hyundai, the N74, whatever it is, right. The concept, I'm sure you noted on that because of this thing. If not, how dare you? Like, if cars start looking... If EVs start looking like that thing and this thing, I've become very, very aesthetic the last couple of years. I'm very interested in EVs looking like this. It's like the one thing that bothers me the most about electric vehicles is that they don't have to all look like alien space frogs. They just don't. No. They can look good. Like, design isn't dead. Make them look like this. Like, you can make a compliant car for safety regs and everything look like this. Definitely.
Right.
So make it.
And to your point, it's the EVs, I think on a whole, the EVs we like tend to be the EVs that look like, almost like it's disappointing to go up like, man, that looks sweet. Where's the frunk? Damn it.
Right.
You know, right. But they look like they could have an internal, like, design isn't being reinvented. It's just a re-envisioning of certain things.
Yeah. And one, hello, Steve. Hello, Steve. There's your hello. Two, I said hi to Andrew because we don't really get many comments over on YouTube. So that's why. So shut up. And then Andrew says, personally, EVs are not my cup of tea, but hey, if it's an option for people, I don't mind. I'll stick with my internal combustion. Even my 2017 S60 Polestar. Hey, Polestar brother, what's up? Feels a little too new and soulless to me. That's because you have the 4-banger. Get the 6-cylinder, and you will sing a very different tune. As someone who has a car with that 4-banger, sitting right outside, my wife's XC90, it's a cool engine because it's twin charged. It's got turbo and supercharged. It's not the same. The 6-cylinder, it's the oral cacophony that you hear when the baffles are opened on this thing. It is way better than the 4-cylinder. The 4-cylinder is really cool. It's definitely better performing out of the box, but this is a better car overall because of the noise, honestly. And the transmission foibles aside, it's still a better car. Either way, the whole EV debate is they're going to look cool, and they're going to be performance-oriented versions of that. I'll stick to internal combustion as well for the short term. And that might be a really good time to switch topics, but we can still keep this up because honestly, this is a gorgeous design. It really is. This.
If you told me this was the next GTR, I would buy it.
I was just gonna say that this looks like an S chassis car, but it looks sort of like as if an S chassis car had a baby with a GTR.
Right. I mean, the nose.
So like I love this.
I think it's simple. You have one sort of body crease. It's two-tone, but not crazy. But you have nice, defined, but not over the top arches. The interior is extremely red, but I'm sure that you'll have other options. And then you have a simple black front. I'm not a fan of gold cars, but this is working. Like, this as a package is working. So
yeah, it depends on the gold because this isn't really gold. This is like a cream tan gold, which is like it's almost like I'd say like a vintage gold is a good way to describe this. The gold cars really got a bad name from like the Cadillac gold, which was just gaudy and annoying. But this looks very nice, and it's a great color. But I guess a good transition to a topic that I actually just sent you. You don't have to bring up the article, but Autoblog just had something, and this is something that's been kind of milling around the autosphere the last couple of weeks and months, is that EVs are like getting harder to sell, and EVs are basically they're kind of not working the way that car companies wanted them to. They're still selling them, sure. It's not like it's going off a cliff, but the problem is the demand isn't there as much as it was. and there's also way too much supply at this point because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, cars nowadays just last forever. Like it's not like in the 90s and the 80s when you bought a car and in 4 years you had to trade it in because it was going to fall apart, or it was like ruinously expensive to maintain. Like the car behind me is a 2016, and I've literally had to do zero maintenance to it other than oil changes. I haven't even replaced the brake pads in 2.5 years. I haven't replaced anything. The only thing I've done is get a new set of tires for my winter tires that are sitting at Mavis in an adjacent town to mine. So, like, as a 2016, that should speak volumes. Like, and I bought this thing almost 3 years ago, and I've had zero issues with it. It's just the modern car. Like, cars don't break as often as they used to. There's a lot more to cars now, but with that said, there are things that are just better in modern cars, and reliability and longevity is one of them, whether people like to think so or not. That is a reality. So people getting EVs have bought EVs that they wanted to, and they're going to last because they're modern cars and they're made well. Even with battery pack degradation, there's still not a ton to that. So the thing is, like, they're not selling as many. And a great stat in here, that GM just had their third quarter earnings call, and basically they said TPS reports. I'll read this one verbatim. The company announced with its quarterly results that it's abandoning its targets to build 100,000 EVs in the second half of this year and another 400,000 by the first 6 months of 2024, so the first half of next year. GM doesn't know anymore when it will hit those targets. So, like, they are starting to realize that full EV adoption is not a thing. And I've been preaching this since day one. Chad's probably really tired of me saying it, but there will never be full EV adoption, just like there will never be self-driving cars. Those are two things that will never ever happen.
Second point, self-driving cars already exist. It's called
No, they don't. No. All right, you have me on a technically you are correct. The best kind of correct.
Well, it's a car I don't have to drive.
Correct, yeah. Self-drive, the car is self-driving. Not a human driving another car. That's just called a taxi. Shut up.
Real quick. Anthony, thank you for the 300 stars. I saw you. I've been waiting for a moment to chime in. Good on you with the moistness.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, take those 300 stars back. Refund. Blech.
Too late. I'm already spending it.
Yuck City.
Here's the thing, and we talked about this last time, and that I forget the article I got it from, but basically it said that over 50% of current EV owners aren't convinced that an EV is going to be their next car. Now, it's not because they hate it or they love it or what have you. It was just they buy what makes the most sense to them. Whether it be for a whole host of reasons that goes into buying a car, they would say, look, if it's whatever car is best for me, internal combustion or in electric, that's the car I'm going to buy. It's not like someone goes out and buys an EV and all of a sudden it's like, my eyes have been opened. I will never touch a fossil fuel ever again in my life as their oil eats their house. But, I've had multiple conversations about this with different people. I actually had a conversation about this with one of the respiratory therapists. There it is. When I was visiting my mom, and it was that there's a certain amount of people who want an electric car. That number is not 1-to-1. It's
correct.
Right now, for every four internally combustion powered cars, one EV is sold. roughly. So 20% market share. And that it's plateaued out. If you look at the sales figures from over the course of this year, EV sales has sort of hit a plateau. And, you know, and again, we talked about this at the beginning of the stream. Car companies are not necessarily interested in making sports cars, electric cars, crossovers, pickup trucks. They're not in the business to make that one specific thing. They're in business to make money. And whatever sells is what they're going to produce.
Correct.
And again, beat a dead horse. And I would really actually like to get one of these days and someone who's a bit of an expert on like on electric cars and like who's, you know, does a little more digging than we do, because we do our due diligence a lot of the times. But researching electric cars to me is a lot like doing homework on that subject you kind of sort of care about. It's like, and there's my saturation point. Let me go look at this guy who just built a 500 horsepower Hayabusa engine or whatever. But the market will dictate a lot of these things. And I'm sorry, the government can stomp their feet as much as they want. The government can't even freaking agree on electric car. And that is going to be one of those items as far as like politics are concerned. You see it a lot in like a lot of the ads for the political ads that I can't seem to tell, you know, Google, like I just don't want to see any of them. But the fact that I do is electric car adaptation or the force feeding of electric cars to consumers. It's just not going to fly. It just isn't. And look, fossil fuels are a finite resource. Are we running out of it? Not anytime soon. Are there others along the way? Hydrogen fuel cells one. Synthetic fuels is another one we've discussed at length here. And if you can't, I would really be interested in knowing exactly the demographics of who's buying electric vehicles. Because I got to imagine an overwhelming majority is 45 and under. I would say it's probably 30 to 45 is the age bracket buying them. People with sufficient means to buy one and sufficient youth to care, as opposed to like, you know, you go up to ask grandpa, hey grandpa, you want a new electric car? And he throws a screwdriver at you. Like, you know.
So that I can comment on because I know the demographics of that because I've looked it up within the last 2 months. It is people with money, and it's disproportionately skewed because we have 10 years of data with Tesla. It's catching up because all these other companies are making EVs and stuff, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper. But most of it is 45 plus, so 45 to 60, because that generation has the most money.
Well, yeah.
Yes. But because that generation has the most money, and because up until now, EVs have been largely for those that are wealthy or in the upper middle class.
So would you say that demographic is
that
very
price
similar
point just dictated that?
Would you say that the demographic that buys EVs is extremely similar to the demographic? I don't know why I'm like holding a screwdriver and just using it as.
I was going to say this feels very threatening right now.
Do you think that the demographic that buys sports cars is the same as the demographic who buys EVs? Because it's 45 and over, people with means, right? And
yes, 100%. Literally, it's not 1-to-1, but you are 100% correct in saying that, because who buys sports cars, or at least $50,000 plus sports cars?
Right.
Those with money.
I mean,
or those in the upper middle class, or those in the.
I guess not to oversimplify it, but I guess the demographic that buys a $50,000 or $55,000 car and above, is all going to be about the same type of people.
Right, and you're correct. And you're correct.
But
so that's why they're trying to skew these EVs to the younger generation to get them adopted in this. But like, there's so many other things to think about here. Doug made an interesting point about the politics of it, and he said, not to be political, but folks on the right post on Facebook about EV cars as though they're environmentalist nut jobs more than folks with their anti-EV antics. So half the country hates EVs without even giving them a try. Not good that the industry pushed it so hard as an environmental savior. And then a counterpoint to that is, and full transparency, as a voting Democrat saying this, the left is equally as loony in that conversation because they think that EVs are going to save the environment when they don't really realize that cars only account for about 3% of global emissions for the entire world every year. It's like, I forget the statistic, but cows are like triple that because of all the methane they produce. It's insane. Like, you have to do what I call, and this is just a general term, like it's economies of scale. You have to look at the broader picture than just the micromanaging, and you have to go a lot larger with your worldview in this to save the environment than just electric cars. Go back to the 1980s, and this is something that I've mentioned previously on stream. The hole in the ozone layer. We realized, holy crap, this is not good. Get rid of all these aerosols. And you know what? They did. All of the aerosols that had all of those bad things are gone, and we don't hear about the hole in the ozone layer anymore. Do you know why?
Fix a flat.
Because the hole in the ozone layer... What?
Fix a flat.
Because we fixed a flatted the ozone layer. But you're kind of, honestly, by the new projections are by 2060. Yes. So by the new thing is by 2060 or 2065, that's the new projection, the hole in the ozone layer will have healed itself. And that is because as a global community, we recognized there is a singular problem for this, and we fixed it. EVs are not a singular problem fix. Internal combustion engines are not the singular problem fix.
Eat more cow.
What about all of the CO2 that is emitted for creating an EV or an internal combustion car? Not saying it's just EVs the problem here. There's also a lot of CO2 that's made when you make a car, period. What about making your favorite makeup or making this or making that? Carbon neutrality is the new thing for that, but no one seems to be talking about carbon neutrality as a whole, and it's like just EVs. So both sides are totally Looney Tunes as far as this conversation goes, because neither of them are correct. So they have to get on the same page, and the likelihood of that happening is basically zero, because neither of them are right, and neither of them want to admit that. So
right,
what we need to really have happen is someone needs to come along and make a carbon neutral process for making a car and running a car. Synthetic fuels is a great start to that, because you can use those synthetic fuels to make the product and run the product. So there is something that can help this whole conversation. But that is probably 40 to 50 years out from being a reality. So we need to continue the conversation, but it's still not over, but it still needs to happen.
Right. And I mean, here's the thing. I saw let's see here. I saw a couple people in chat mention it both on the Facebook and YouTube side of things. Ethan over on Facebook and Andrew over on YouTube, and like they're talking about hybrids. I mean, and I think Ethan said it for the sound of it, right? Like, imagine having, like, let's just say, imagine you have a small displacement internal combustion engine that sounds great, but it's making 40 to 50% of the power, and the EV propelled, but you get the sound and you get the kick in the pants. Really, that's all as enthusiasts we are after.
Right.
Hybrids I think are a step in the right direction, simply because it's the best of both worlds. You have electric drive, which can be whatever significant percentage of the drive, but you have a way using conventional existing infrastructure to increase that charge, to charge it. You don't have to rely. And I was reading an article about, and I only did it in passing, just top tip to anyone out there who's thinking about getting into writing, thinking about being a journalist. The beautiful artsy story about something is great. You're talking about a guy who owns a series of charge stations. The first 2 pages don't need to be about where he was born, where he grew up, what college he attended to, what sports he played in high school, what his high school sweetheart was, and what his fucking astrological sign is. Most people who are clicking that link just want the facts. But basically what boiled down to is that he says it's an absolute nightmare in some cases because sometimes it's overcrowded. Sometimes it's, he said his first location was supposed to be able to handle a certain amount of draw for I think it was 10 stations. But after 6 months, he realized he could really only run 6 at the same time. Or something like that. And he said it's not simple, you go, you put a wire, you put a plug in and that there's certain stuff to it. But even the people who are in charge of charging, it's difficult for. And that's why let's hybridization, while it's not necessarily my first choice, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself to be an average consumer. Hybridization, again, let's just say you make a hybrid, it uses 60% less fossil fuels to go the exact same distance or go the exact same speed or make the exact same power. Because efficiency is miles per gallon. It's also horsepower or torque, because horsepower is a measure of how long torque exists. But at any rate, power output. So there's a reason why, in Australia, you get horsepower, but most of the cars are advertising kilowatts. So if you're using, let's say, half the fuel, it has a significantly larger impact. Let's just say we get 60% hybrid adaptation, right? Well, you're saving significantly more fuel, less carbon emissions with that than you are 20% market share of EVs.
Right.
So it's an interesting topic.
And EVs still they won't go past 40 to 60% ever. They'll never get more than adopted than that. I don't even know if it's going to hit that.
Battery powered electric vehicles, I would tend to agree with you if they figure out, well, 2 things with that. Number one, if they figure out fuel cell and how to make a fuel cell car for less than $60,000, for what effectively amounts to an Accord, right?
Right.
If they can figure out how to do that with, I think that's an EV, right? It just happens to have a non-exploding, well, hopefully non-exploding power generation unit on it. The humanity.
Yes. Solid state battery with many hundreds of miles of range, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 900 miles of range, that charges at home in 20 minutes is a game changer. And it will happen. We'll get there because they're putting billions upon billions of dollars into battery tech. You're not going to put that much money into battery tech and not come out on the other side with something that's going to actually work. So they will get it eventually. Toyota is probably the closest, but it's, again, that sort of technology is still 2 decades away, from mass adoption. They have solid state battery.
Adoption, yes, but 2025, Ford is slated. Ford has, basically Ford and BMW working together with a company in Colorado, on solid state. They say, now take it with whatever grain of salt you have to. But they say that they should have a solid, Toyota's I think in a similar boat, a solid state battery powered electric car in that time frame. Will it get a significant percentage of the theoretical efficiency? Time will tell. I don't think so. But let me put it this way: if you can make it 25% more efficient than conventional batteries, it's going to change the industry pretty damn quick. Simply because of the dangers of liquid batteries. Thermal runaway being such a thing, and fire departments having to spend tens of thousands of dollars to have specialty equipment to put out EV fires.
Right.
Solid state battery and sodium ion technology. I think are the two things that if they can get them to where we have a car that can get 500 miles of range with the radio on, the air conditioning on, and not blast the range, that's going to be a larger step for EVs than anything else. But
yeah. But until we get that, it's just vaporware.
And then until we get, everything with electric vehicle technology, whether it be outside of hybrids, whether it be, not for nothing, hybrids benefit from solid state too, because let's just say the hybrid's supposed to offer X amount percentage. Like, let's say the electric drive in a hybrid is 50%, right? Let's say you just keep it at 50%, but a solid state battery, that's half the size. That's half the weight. So you haven't done anything, and you've made it more efficient.
Right, exactly.
So
that's another thing that companies aren't understanding is like heavy batteries, they're ruining the range. If the batteries were just lighter, you could 1.5 to 2x the range because lightweight equals more range. It's the same on an internal combustion car. You have less weight to haul around, you get better range. It's just thank you, Colin Chapman, for instilling that in us. Like that's simplify and add lightness. Like this, it works for performance, but it works for range too. It's just how it goes.
Again, it goes back to efficiency. It means efficiency can mean speed, or it can mean go farther. Like that's a sliding scale utilizing the same equipment. Just didn't realize that was going to be the first one I read. At any rate, so Steve goes on and says, the ones who oppose EVs are the ones that complain about fuel economy of their combustion engines, which results in car manufacturers getting rid of V8s and applying 6-cylinder turbos or a high output V6 being replaced for a 4-cylinder turbo, more of a hybrid selection. Then Christian goes, a solar power plant making synthetic fuel seems pretty environmentally friendly to me. I don't know how that shit's made. You should find someone and then make millions, because that's an idea.
That's right.
It's I guess I asked for that comment on YouTube, given the title I had. But I think we'll wrap it up here. And then I want to touch on some comments over on the YouTube side of things. But basically, the thing of it is, so manufacturers want to cram EVs down our throat because the government told them that they have to have a certain number of EVs by X date. And then nobody had the wherewithal to be like, hi, people who make the shit, that's one thing. We can do it. Make sure the rest of the country is suitable for it, one. Because, internal combustion is getting to such a state of efficiency that it's like, people they're like, I just want to get from point A to point B, man. I don't really care. EV, internal combustion, don't give a crap. And then when that's the thing, it's like, it only takes 20 minutes to charge this car. Yeah, well, it was 5, and 3 of that was spent getting a Slim Jim at the in the shop. Right. But at any rate, Steve Tavares deleted the hybrid battery for his P1. I think for the completion of said build, in addition to the cost that it was going to take to replace that system, I think he made the right decision.
He kind of had to, because a full hybrid, no matter what, look, Freddie's a good buddy of mine. No matter what he says on his YouTube channel, a full hybrid swap of a P1 is going to be north of $500,000 because of how that car is made. So, no, he wasn't going to do that, which is not a surprise, because there are a few out there that have had full hybrid swaps because the hybrid system took a crap. And those people can afford them because they're multi-billionaires and have either a P1 plus a Koenigsegg plus a Bugatti plus blah, plus. So they were just like, here you go, McLaren, just do it, because $500,000 is like a $5 bill to me. So doing what he did is a much more practical way to own a P1. So good on him for doing that. But bummer he couldn't do like an actual full P1 build. But it's also at SEMA, so it's not like finished. So he could do something.
No, it doesn't run.
We'll see. No, I know it doesn't run. It's like, but I'm saying like that's the point. Like it's not finished. So if he could find a workaround, maybe in the future, maybe he'll do that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing, right? Like DDE showed us that McLaren V8, that sort of modular V8 that they have. You could probably build that. Tavares, if he wanted to, could build that out to 1,400 horsepower for less money than it would cost. Probably have two or three of the, maybe three of the engines for the cost of a new hybrid system. Make the same power.
Yeah, for sure.
And be lighter. Like, arguably have, like, the fastest P1 in the world. You know? Like, if he ever decides to put a body on the back half again. You know, and there's a lot of stuff, like, over on the YouTube side, comment-wise. You know, chat over there, you know, effectively, like, you know, how hard it is to put out fires, all this other sort of stuff. Like, look, I think we're in a place where companies are going to make the EVs, let the market dictate. And I think the market has dictated that 20% of the American population wants an EV. And
but to your earlier point, some of those people might not want an EV again.
Right, I'm just going off
of
we can only...
I would be willing to even go lower than that and say 10% of the population truly wants an EV.
Let me rephrase then. 20% of the population is buying EVs.
That's fully accurate, because that's literally
what the statistics say, and then we'll find out again next year whether that number goes one way or the other. And not for nothing, I think 20% adaptation in 10 years basically is immense. Like that is huge. To the credit of the electric car manufacturers. The fact that they gained that quick of market share. I just think they've hit their plateau. You know, and then like I said many times before, the use case for EVs is dependent on is a per person basis. It's not a mass adoption kind of thing. Like if you are a work from home person or a work very close to your job person, your use case for an EV is awesome, and you should totally buy one, because you don't have to pay for the fuel. That EV is going to last you 20 to 25 years pretty easily, especially because you're not really beating on the car. Your maintenance goes down. Your longevity of the car, is more elastic, and it becomes, a 20 to 25 year old internal combustion engine may not be as good potentially in 20 to 25 years as an EV, because there's an engine to think about. Well, hold on,
internal
before
combustion
you
version.
Continue with
but
that, let me just point out or ask you a question that I know you know the answer to.
Yeah.
What is the number one item that plagues modern cars as far as like a reliability standpoint, and that piggybacks into what is the number one complaint about most modern cars? And I'm not talking.
I'm going to go with electronics.
Yeah, just saying.
Yes.
If the whole vehicle is that,
no,
let's just
totally understand.
Internal combustion engines in modern cars, if well maintained, on the whole.
Yes, they will last. They will last a long time.
The engine in your car right now could probably go to 200,000 miles without breaking a sweat. Will the electric surrounding it?
I don't disagree with that. However, I will say that electric motors are simpler than internal combustion engines in that respect. I understand that it's fully electronic in that sense, but there's less moving parts.
Mechanically simpler.
It's mechanically simpler. Yes, that's sort of the idea I'm getting to. Like it's mechanically simpler, so buying a Nissan Leaf with not a ton of range because you don't need it, like that makes a ton of sense because it's cheap. You don't need a lot of range, and you will reduce a lot of your costs, like gas, maintenance, yada yada yada. The whole environmental thing aside, like that's a really good buy.
Is like it's all. I don't have the expertise in this area, so I can't get into the minutia of it. But the environmental benefits and things of that nature to me feels like snake oil.
Well,
a selling point.
Not necessarily
a selling point, because let me put it to you this way: like when hybrids first came around, when they were using nickel cad, just Google what the nickel mine in Canada looks like now and what it is currently being used for. Hint, hint: a Mars substitute from NASA.
Yeah.
Look at what lithium mining and stuff like that is doing, and things like that, and like the refinement process, and just like all that. I just kind of want to close it here. It's just and make it real simple. You want an EV? Go get one. If you fall into Greg's use case, Christian makes a great point. It's why not get like a C10 or K10 pickup? If you don't drive a lot, you're not using a lot of fuel, so it's going to be economical. Just like I don't drive a lot and drive an 800 horsepower Mustang, it's economical. I use less gas than Greg does, but like,
that's right.
Let the individual consumer decide and dictate, like we always have with all things, right? Like this might be an imprecise because of the reason why VHS was beat out Beta, but like back in the day, you had VHS and you had Betamax. And VHS ended up winning out. It had no small part to do with the pornography industry, but
totally different discussion at that point.
The same argument applies. The market dictated. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Dictated.
Yeah, I see what you did there, and I don't appreciate it. And so, like, if 1 in 5 wanted, fine, whatever, go for it. I think the mistake here is putting all of the eggs in the battery basket. Whatever research is going into battery tech should be going into hydrogen, should be going into synthetic fuels, because every single one has their benefits. Everyone has its sort of downfall. But if you go at trying to become carbon neutral or reducing carbon emissions or whatever you want to say, if you have this 3-prong attack, let's just say fuel cell is the one that takes the market share, right? And I'm not saying it will be. I'm just using it as an example. Either way, that's a massive step from where we were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you don't, with emerging technologies, you don't just do one thing and be like, well, this is going to work. No, you have multiple. There's a reason why, like, when the United States military wants a new fighter jet, they put it to bid. And then they usually get 2, maybe 3 finalists. And then they go from there, right? But that's pretty much it. I do want to kind of get back to chat. Steve goes, but Freddie also deleted the battery for weight reduction as well as in addition to the high price tag. I'm gonna make you a bet that if you put his feet to the fire on it, lightness is what he's going with. Cost was one thing, and having something that was somewhat remotely close to being functional for SEMA was the last.
Yeah, I'll say this: a P1 doesn't need weight reduction. It's got 900 plus horsepower.
Well, it's
part
of
the Holy Trinity. No, I know, but it doesn't need lightness. It is. If you've ever been inside of a P1, just like I've never driven one, I've never been in one driving, but I've sat in one at the New York Auto Show. If you've ever been in one, you don't even need to have it drive to understand it does not need lightness. It is an alien spacecraft,
right?
And it is ballistically fast. So, like,
right.
The whole reason for him deleting that is money. It has nothing to do with lightness. I promise you.
Right. It's one of. I will just leave it there because I don't want to put too many words in someone else's mouth without actually having. But I think it was. No, all good. He's asked the question a couple times, and I do want to get to it. I forget who it was, and in the interest of time, I'll just go. They asked, "Do we see a time where EVs are cheaper than internal combustion?" I mean, maybe. Nope. I don't think anytime soon. But
on average,
well, let's just put it this way. Like, let's just say you have an electric Civic and you have an electric or a gas-powered Civic. Will the electric one be cheaper than the gas-powered one? I think EV technology is still progressing, so that if let's just say you use the EV tech of today, in 10 years, should that EV tech be cheaper? Maybe. But it's still a complicated process to make. There's so much that goes into it. Basically, for EVs to get cheaper than internal combustion, I think that's going to happen right around the same time if they ever get majority market share. Like, it's just an economy of scales type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I don't think, pound for pound, I don't think it'll ever happen, because you have to include the government rebates, which do still exist in certain capacities. So if you take a $30,000 Civic internal combustion and a $30,000 Civic EV, well, you have to understand that the $30,000 Civic EV has been discounted by $6,000 to $10,000 depending on government subsidies. So it's really, if you want to talk pound for pound, more expensive for the EV. I don't think EVs will ever be as cheap as internal combustion. The only way that happens is if EVs do get majority, like Chad said, and internal combustion just becomes too expensive to run.
Whatever.
So they have to upcharge them because of, economics.
It basically becomes what is, the plants, right? Like, they're going to set up the plant to build the car that sells the most, that makes the most money. When the plants are designed more on the EV side and what have you, it'll be interesting. Like, there's so much to think about with that question. Lithium kind of tricky to get out of the ground, but if sodium ion, now it's obviously an oversimplification, but how do you get Scion? You go into the ocean, you get a cup, you throw it on a slab, let the water evaporate, harvest your
sodium. I have that in my cabinet. It's salt. It's lovely.
Right, but the point of the matter is you don't have to dig a gigantic hole with an enormous machine to get it, right? It's how the people on the Mediterranean have been getting their salt for years.
For years, try centuries.
I mean, centuries are many years. Just saying.
Shut up.
Christian goes, people taking wrecked EVs and fixing them up seems pretty dangerous, since those batteries need like the smallest crack in the lining to go kaboom. I mean, yes.
Yeah, but they're engineered to withstand like a good amount of like beating.
I mean,
it's not like it's not like you're throwing a Duracell in there.
I mean, let's
they're pretty substantial most of the time.
Right. And I mean, it's not like it's the electric equivalent of the Corvair.
Right.
At any rate, here's the thing, right? Like, if you're gonna mess around with that sort of stuff, I've always maintained, I think a really cool project would be to get some EVs powertrain and put it in something that's not a classic, but is classic adjacent, right? So like, instead of doing a GTO, you do a Le Mans, right? Like that sort of thing. Playing around with like an EV, or like, not for nothing, I think an EV C30 would be kind of rad, but
that would be very rad. I like that idea. Again, small car, fun. I mean, you're using it as a runabout, probably, or a fun little car.
You have companies like EV West that are making those sorts of projects, I don't want to say affordable, but not ruinously expensive.
Right.
Oh, Christian has the EVs being cheaper. Perfectly good Tesla for $2,000. Maybe.
Perfectly good Tesla for $2,000.
I mean, let's put it this way.
Yes.
Look at a big...
Buy it and then sell it.
I mean...
for not $2,000.
Look, that gets into more of a market question than an EV or internal combustion question. To answer that question, go look at, like, I guess the equivalent price-wise new would be like an S-Class Mercedes. And go look at what a 2003 S-Class Mercedes is selling for. Rinse and repeat with like a Lexus LS, the big...
Yeah.
Like if you look at what the depreciation on those, some more than that, but that'll give you a ballpark of what cars of today or 10 years ago will sort of be.
Yeah.
And then it goes.
I want to touch on one thing about the EVs that Doug said. That's actually a really poignant point, and then we can kind of move on.
Come to expect from Douglas.
That's right. Let me see. Where is the comment? And it's a thing that Volvo did. And Volvo's actually a really good... Oh, here it is. So Volvo's a really good case study here because Volvo was one of the first companies that was just like, okay, we're going all EV because we're all about safety. And safety also includes saving the environment. So they were one of the big OEM proponents of like, yes, we're going to save the environment through EVs and cool. Like you're not actually doing that, but that was your mantra. Own it. Cool. Doug's comment by Volvo's study. So Volvo did a study on this. A BEV XC40, so they're small crossover SUV. Which, by the way, I love. The XC40 is a great design car. I've driven all of them other than the electric version. They are awesome. I really enjoy them. A BEV XC40 takes about 90 to 100,000 miles with US electric to break even for carbon. So better than most gas cars, but not a real great valid reason. So that is actually a hugely interesting thing. We don't have to really get into it, but there's many studies that say like to break even for carbon footprint because of the lithium mining, because of the CO2 expansion and emissions for creating the car and yada yada stuff with this stuff. 90 to 100,000 miles. Chad, remind me, what mileage do most people trade in cars before because they would get max value?
Right before the warranty goes out.
Which is, well, yeah, good answer. But what 6-digit number do people usually trade in before?
Traditionally, it's if you trade in, if you're going to trade your car and you want to do it before it hits 100,000 miles.
Exactly, and that's literally the 10,000 mile range when people are looking for a new car. Not only just because you get value for your trade-in, but also because people get bored very easily. So to have a car for 200, 300, 400,000 miles to break even and even do better for carbon, it's not really a great valid argument. Yes, Chad.
Oh no, I get bored easily with cars.
Oh, well, there you go. Case and
I think
point.
the last
Chad not part of the study.
The last what is it? The last probably, I don't know, 10 days I've had 10 different builds in my head. So exactly. I get all that. I mean, it's look, one of these days, I think for our base, one of these days we'll get an EV expert on.
Yeah, or at least more knowledgeable person than us.
More knowledgeable.
Like, we're knowledgeable, but
let me put it this way.
There's a
Who's
difference.
more either, whether it be financially, businessly. Yes, I made that word up.
I like businessly. That's a good word.
Basically, is incentivized, whether it be personal or professional, to know EV stuff. And then maybe we'll have like a EV myths dispel or EV myth busting stream, and that you guys can throw all the EV myths you want at us and a guest.
Yes.
And then we can kind of go from there. But
yes. On that note, be entertaining for like 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. Russia flying start. Oh shoot. So let's see here. Christian, so never a gambler 500 Tesla. I mean, I wouldn't say never, but I think you'd have a better chance of insert other electric car here. Just because Tesla is a weird car company in that no matter what they make, they have their fanboys. And any car market with a fanboy base is going to drive pricing up. Whether it be electric or not. Huh. I feel Chad exactly. Fortunately, I want a house more than building a project car. I totally get that, Andrew. As someone with a project car and someone who's looking to move into I own a house, but I want something slightly different, a little more well suited to myself, to my mother who lives with me, and all that other sort of stuff. Reason progress on the Mustang has sort of stalled because life. Not to say that won't pick up with that. Hopefully early into the new year. Body modifications being at the top of my list. But yeah, I mean, shoot. Off the top of my head, the 510 I think about daily. I really have been starting to like the idea more and more, if I could figure out the right transmission for it, is a 350 minimum horsepower C30 naturally aspirated, because I've heard some of the NA 5 cylinders and they sound insane. I've thought about, overlanding builds. I think recently I thought about taking a Mark IV Supra and putting a 2UR into it. The 2UR is the Lexus F V8. Pick an F car, that's the 2UR. Arguably the best V8 to ever come out of Japan. That's just off the top of my head. I've thought about how I could do a turbo Hayabusa build, with like close to 400 horsepower. It's what I think about. Most people think about it's what I think about.
Let's talk about cars we can't afford, like that Ferrari.
Yes. I'm just trying to catch up on chat. Yeah, Brian goes, yeah, thanks, Fast and Furious, for the insane markup on the S13 or S14. Would have never thought I'd see the day a Mark IV Supra was $100K at auction. That's stock. Yeah, that's the funny meme about it, right? The famous Ferrari scene. Mark IV Turbo Supras are worth more than the 355 Ferrari.
Yeah. Stock's an important point there, because those that want cars like that, they want them stock.
Yeah.
Because that just pulls more value.
And randomly, the YouTube chat just caught up on my back end. I've been going off my phone, but now it just caught right back up. And I got every YouTube comment on the stream all at once. So like, what is going on? So next up, so as a lot of you know, if you ask me what my favorite form of motorsport is, I'm going to tell you sports car racing. Greg will tell you that as well, because we were having a lively Formula One debate, although Greg wasn't so much debating as sort of just being the guy who just was like, yeah, but over here, this, blah, blah, blah. Well, Hanson, the third member of Shifting Lanes, and I were debating the merits of one Max Verstappen, overrated in my book. But sports car racing,
your favorite form of motorsport is reverse Dutch racing.
No. Is sports car racing. Mostly because we are actually, in the very beginning, this year was the first year of it, a renaissance, a new golden era of sports car racing. GT3 is going to be the primary GT class globally, meaning Le Mans, IMSA, everywhere, which means so many more manufacturers can come into the party. So companies like McLaren are going to return to Le Mans. Lexus is going to Le Mans with the RCF, and then whatever the next generation GT3 car is. Mustang, Corvette, Ferrari, Porsche. Like, the brand diversity is insane, and it's awesome in the GT ranks. You've had brand diversity in GT before, but never in the prototype ranks. And in prototype, you have like, it's insane. So we've used to have 2-3 manufacturers in the best of times ever since Audi decided to just curb stomp everyone into submission. But for next year, we're going to have BMW, Ferrari, Peugeot, Toyota, Alpine, Lamborghini, Cadillac, Porsche, Honda and Acura all racing in either the GTP or hypercar class, which is the combined top tier of sports car racing.
Good Lord.
And,
I didn't realize it was that much.
And Aston Martin is coming in 2025 with the Valkyrie with a screaming V12. So you have a bunch of different turbocharged V6s.
Should have been there since the beginning.
Yes, they literally wrote rules for them, and they were like, nah. And then they're back. I'm just happy they're back because a V12 at Le Mans at night sounds insane, and it's awesome. And I really hope I'm financially able to go and witness that race full hand.
Watch them turbo it, and it would be like just muted, and you'll be like, "Son of a bitch!"
I will punch you in the kidneys as a former Aston Martin owner, and then I will take maple syrup and I will take as much maple syrup and throw it into the ocean to protest Canada and Lawrence Stroll. Just so you have a 2.4, 3 liter, 2.6, 3.4, and 3.5 liter turbocharged V6s, a naturally aspirated 5.5 liter V8. America, a 4.6, a 4 liter, and a 3.8 liter turbocharged V8, and the aforementioned V12. That is insane when you consider that back a few years we were singing the praises of having Porsche, Toyota, and Audi racing together. Just three.
Right.
So
and people were losing their minds over 3 of them.
Now you want to talk about alien spaceships? Those cars were more advanced than the Formula One cars of the time. But at any rate, the car that won Le Mans this year was the Ferrari 499. And it is this thing. Well, not this thing. And the reason why it's not this thing is that this is a car that Ferrari is basing off of that car. Powertrain, hybrid technology. However, they've taken the shackles off of everything, so it makes way more power. The hybrid system can engage whenever the car wants it, as opposed to by rule, it has to be over 100 such miles an hour in sports car racing, which to me is moronic. Like when you want the 4-wheel drive or the hybrid driveline is down low, but it's an unfair advantage. So this was their balance of performance thing. Just make all the cars rear-wheel drive. I don't understand why that was so difficult.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever.
Conversation for another day. But this is the Modifica, and in addition,
Modificata, I think it is.
I don't know. I haven't had enough marinara today. But the thing here is that it's a car that rich people can buy and take to a track day. And by rich people, I mean people that are almost single-handedly, Ferrari's like, hey, you want one? You want one? I'd like one. Go away. You've only owned 3 Ferraris? I don't want to talk to you. But, it's going to have more aggressive, it's going to be more driver-friendly. So have more driver aids, but the suspension, everything's all basically the same. And why I think this is awesome, even though I am not a massive fan of Ferrari in general. Do they have a bigger picture of it? There. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Ferrari, I love this idea of so Ferrari has done with like the FXX, the 599X, the blah 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 X, etc. And taking a road car, made it into a race car. Think Aston Martin Vulcan is the same type of thing, although there was no street car. But the manufacturers take these cars, make a not at all street legal version of these cars so rich people can go have a fun track day. Which is like, come on, why not just give us the car that can do both? Because usually these track day specials look awesome. This is a Le Mans winning race car that just really, 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 really rich people can go out and buy. I think that's really cool to see. You've never seen anything like that for a long time. Now, don't get me wrong, like the Group C era, you did when manufacturers only had to make 2, but you had the Porsche 911 GT1, the McLaren F1 was a byproduct of this, where you got actually caught. Those were decent numbers compared to like the Nissan, Toyota, and stuff. Right. It's cool. I mean, it's another one of those Ferraris that I don't think you ever take possession of. You just tell Ferrari where you're going to be, and then they bring it to you, which has its benefits and its detractors. Frankly, if I bought this thing, I would want that cock extension sitting in my garage so I could just go to my friends and be like, yeah, car like that won Le Mans. Yeah. Oh, you got another Lexus? Ha!
Dude, let's be honest. If you own this car and it's somehow in your garage, you are not talking to people that are buying Lexus. You are talking to people that are buying well above Lexus.
Okay, I'm sorry. What's that? You got another Koenigsegg?
There you go. That's the correct echelon that we are on. How much is this thing? I wanted to say this was above $4 million. Was that right?
It's like 4.5. I think it's 4.5 million euro.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the euro is pretty 1-to-1 to the dollar. So you can basically say it's $4.5 million at that point.
But I think it's really because we talked about that Aston Martin, the Valkyrie. There is a road car version of that. I think that is freaking awesome. I think that's the one thing that this class could use is that if you're going to come in with like a hypercar, because there's two sides of it, the hypercar and the more cost-effective GTP route. The hypercars, Toyota was talking about making a road-going version of theirs, since have decided not to. I can't imagine why. Hashtag, I don't think anybody's going to buy a $4 million Toyota.
Right.
I mean, they could get real creative with it and be like, it's the Supra Hyper. And it uses a Toyota engine.
So reliability.
Well, not just that. It just shuts the BMW fanboys up.
Yes.
It'd be really cool if, Peugeot. But again, like a Peugeot, a Toyota, a Cadillac. Well, maybe Cadillac would. Porsche, absolutely. Porsche could come in with the 918. But imagine if, Mercedes was like, maybe we should take the AMG racing. What would it take? Oh, we can go to hypercar. Because the Ferrari is an evolution, well, in a loose form, it's an evolution of the F1 car from the engine to its under-the-body design and things of that nature. The hybrid system borrows some tech from the F1 car. The recharging system, because I believe these are four-wheel drive. But it's this, like I said, I think we would absolutely be I would love, imagine if companies did this a few years ago. Imagine you saw the journals going over the Holy Trinity, the LaFerrari, the P1, and the 918. Imagine if that was taking place on the racetrack. I mean, I just think it's really cool that a company's taking a race car, and even though it's for a very, 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 very exclusive clientele, making it available to not race car people. And that's
it's very cool to see it from the other way around. Like you said, car manufacturers usually take a car that they've made and make it a race car. This is Ferrari taking a race car that they've made and making it into a quote-unquote homologation special, which it really freaking is.
This is what,
it's the reverse engineering of that, right? Which it doesn't happen anymore.
This is
they don't do this.
All touring car racing used to require, NASCAR used to have a homologation requirement.
Right.
So, I think who was it? Ryan over on Facebook asked, not sure what racing class the car is in, but have you seen the electric start Cadillac with the insane sounding engine? That's a GTP Cadillac. That races in both IMSA and WEC and raced at Le Mans. I think it finished second or third overall this year. Third overall, I think, because I think Ferrari went 1-2. But it's like you said, it's more. When do you think Whistling Diesel will have one? I don't think Ferrari will ever sell Whistling Diesel a vehicle ever. Even if he wasn't destructive,
not at all.
He is not that's where Ferrari loses me. Is in its snooty,
holier than thou mentality.
Holier than thou mentality. They're the fact that you cannot buy, I'll use the Enzo as an example. You couldn't buy an Enzo unless you had the minimum requirement to get into the interview process was like you had to have owned 10 Ferraris previously over a certain amount of time.
Yeah. So here for me, that actually doesn't bother me. The you have to own 10 Ferraris kind of thing. Like that doesn't bother me. Where Ferrari lost me is what you started to hint on is the cease and desist bullshit that they do. I'm a big fan of EDM music, so Deadmau5 used to have I want to say it's a 458, and he rapped it in Nyan Kitty or Nyan Kitty or something, some anime meme thing, cartoon, whatever it was, and it was the Ferrari. It was cool. He brought it on like Gumball. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was a very cool rap. It was very unique. I was a big fan, and they sent him a cease and desist letter just for a rap. He didn't even modify the car. He literally just wrapped the car in this Nyan Kitty or whatever the hell it's called thing, and it actually brought in a lot of notoriety because he brought it on Gumball 3000. It was right at the beginning of when YouTube was really starting to take off. So there was tons of videos on it all over the place. And Ferrari sent him a cease and desist letter and said, take off the rap. And this is a DJ that has
nobody showed nobody showed them what DDE is doing with their Ferrari.
Right. But that's the problem. And that
right. Meanwhile, Lamborghini embraces that stuff.
Right. That's if I ever hit the lottery, it's the same thing with Jay Leno. Like Jay Leno is has the same mentality. Like he'll never own a Ferrari for that reason. Like I am in the same mindset. I will never ever own a Ferrari. I will drive them. Sure. I will go test drive one, or if there's one at a track day, I'll drive them. I will never ever in a million years for my entire life, I will never own a Ferrari. My dad owned a Ferrari at one point. He owned, if you ever watched Magnum PI back in the day, he had a 308. My dad had a 308 Ferrari. It wasn't very expensive. It wasn't crazy expensive in sports car terms back in the 90s. And he owned one. What's that?
The smog Ferraris.
Yes, exactly. So he owned one for a little while. And it's a cool car, but it wasn't any cooler than anything else of the time period. It wasn't just the only thing that was cooler was that it had a prancing horse on it. Like a 308 versus an equivalent Lamborghini of the time. Like the Lamborghini is way cooler because if you're talking about 80s, you're talking about the Countach. And the Countach is a way cooler car than a freaking 308. So let's be honest here. But the whole thing is I will never, ever own a Ferrari. I've been in one. I've been driven in one. I've been next to them a million times. They are not more special than anything else.
Not for nothing.
The fact that they think they are is the epitome of just douchey bullshit. And I hate that about Ferrari. Can't stand it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And not for nothing, I don't think they've made a good-looking mid-engine car in damn near 15 years. Like the four
almost ever.
The 488
3.
I would go the 488, the the 299 GTO. And then I want to say F40, but at any rate, like not for nothing, if I'm getting a mid-engine Italian car right now, I hit the lottery. If I want a mid-engine Italian supercar, I haven't even looked at the specs compared to the equivalent Lambo or Ferrari. It's the MC20 from Maserati. Yeah. Like I saw one of those.
Oh, that's a great looking car.
I saw one of those in person last week, and it is stunning. This had a matte pearl, almost Swedish Racing Green level blue, but it was this matte pearl with gloss black accents, and it looked so good. And I don't even care that it's a V6, right? Like It looks so good. And like, so if we were
New Ford GT is a V6. Who gives a shit? They're fast.
Right.
All modern V6s that are supercars, fast.
It's
period.
It's not necessarily the speed of it. It's more of the or engine note.
The aura around it. Yeah, I get it.
The engine note, but not for nothing. All the turbocharged V8 Ferraris sound muted.
Yeah, correct.
They don't howl like the 458 engine at all.
Correct, yeah.
So
Ferrari's made 3 good-looking modern cars past 1980. That's it. 3. That's it. 355, 458, and the F12. That is it. There are 0 other modern Ferraris that are attractive. F40, not attractive by aesthetic standards. F50, good-looking, but not attractive. Like, there are no other modern Ferraris that are attractive other than those 3, period. They don't make good-looking cars. They just don't.
They've taken too much of... I mean, what's crazy is that you want to sit here and say that they've taken a Germanic approach to their cars and that it's performance. I don't care what it looks like. Make it perform. And weirdly enough, the German cars all look better. Tell me,
correct.
Tell me a front
engine. They do.
Tell me a front engine GT modern Ferrari that looks better than the AMG GT.
Oh, 0 of them.
You know,
I'd say the only argument I'd make to that is the original F12, just because of how the front end and rear end look. But I'd still say that the AMG GT looks better.
Andrew, F40 not attractive.
Keep going. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean, the F40 look. Let me put it this way: if you were told to sketch a supercar or hypercar, or I guess it's supercar at that point, I don't actually know the delineation. If you were asked someone to draw a supercar from the 80s, it's probably the silhouette you're going to get. So there's something to that. It's just there's too much around Ferrari that isn't about the cars. Take away the fact that aesthetically, most of them are not appealing. Recently, you know, a 250 GTO is still one of the most stunning cars ever created. But recently, it's been function dictating form and not a form with function. It's become such a dick measuring contest between these manufacturers that they just can't design something beautiful and then compete in the never-ending measuring contest that is the hyper supercar whatever. And it's a shame because Ferrari always used to stand for beauty, and they just don't anymore. And it's he's still asleep. Let's see here. Let's kind of scroll up. I saw some of you. Let me see here exactly. Andrew, over on YouTube, I want a 2.5 S60R engine to swap a Volvo 122 at some point in my life. I think that would be an epic build. I've always wanted that 5-cylinder in an MR2. As loyal viewers of the channel will know. My first car I bought when I was 15 was a 67 122S. And it's the one car I've owned the longest, and I miss it. New owner won't sell it. I think everyone kind of has a story like that. The car you sold that you wish you still had. For me, I actually would love to get my hands on my or a IS300 again. This time with more V8. Because actually, Greg, welcome back.
Hello.
Why don't you tell chat? I'm going to take pain in the ass air out again. Yeah, I hear you. Why don't you tell chat your normal car money no object build?
normal car. So like not I'd take an F40 and put a Koenigsegg engine. Not like that stuff.
No, like think of like, you know, like a normal car. Like I would even say like Mustang Camaros and even some like older Corvettes and stuff. But like I wouldn't go beyond that.
So normal car. So like, okay, go beyond that. All right.
So like I always tell people like MR2 with a Volvo 5-cylinder. I have Datsun 510 with a pissed off NA motor, like that sort of stuff.
Oh man, so this is an interesting topic because I don't think about this topic too much because my
not a real car guy.
so I think about it, but I always think about like what can I buy with my means currently, and it always goes to like modern sports cars. So like modern sports cars are always my kind of go-to, and my attainable dream car for since 2014 when it debuted here in the US was the F-Type. F-Type is in my opinion one of the most beautiful modern cars. The proportions are great. I love front engine GT cars. It's just one of my favorites. It sounds ridiculous. I've driven a lot of them actually, just through doing things with Shifting Lanes, which is very cool, through press days and press events and whatever. It is good night, Christian. Thanks for joining, bud. Appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Steve, good seasonal juice lately? Honestly, no. There's not a lot of good seasonal juice beer lately. And Andrew, to answer your question, my drink of choice is juice, which is BEER. Just some IPAs, nothing crazy. Southern Tier, Ithaca, and Zigmeister, which is just a local juice maker. Mostly IPAs. But so where my mind usually goes for this topic is not what am I going to build, but like what modern sports car could I buy that's going to be fun, relatively reliable, and won't break the bank in any way, shape, or form. And F-Type is usually the one that my mind goes to because F-Type is for all intents and purposes, a pretty reliable car. The V8 is an AJ derived block. The engine is stout as almost anything you'd find in modern cars. Being a British sports car, obviously the electronics and all the stuff around it is usually what fails. But for a modern sports car that's not a Porsche 911, which is basically the Toyota Camry of the sports car world, a F-Type is a very good buy in that sense. So you're getting a lot for your money, and you're not going to break the bank should you be able to afford something like that. So that's where my mind usually goes. For a modern car, normal car build, there's a couple of things that I've always sort of kicked around, and it's a lot of sort of like what Chad had thought about, because obviously I'm very into Volvos. So like the red block engine from Volvo is underrated and overrated at the same time. Underrated because it sounds epic. With the right application of either sleeves or block shims, it is a really good engine in that sense. It just sounds amazing. 5 cylinders like from Audi and Volvo, they sound like baby V10s. They're cool. They're just super cool. They sound great. So like swapping that into cars would be amazing. Like they're swapping that into an old Volvo 240 has always been like a dream of mine. Or even like Andrew said, like taking a 2.5 white block engine and putting it into an old Amazon, a wagon, a 122 wagon. Like that, it actually is a dream build of mine. I would love to do that. I'd also love an LS swapped Amazon wagon. So like something like that would be very cool. I don't know if I necessarily have a dream build because there's nothing you really fixate on, because like Chad said, like he's like Chad had said before he left, oh yeah, I have like 10 different builds in my head. Like that's kind of the same way I am. I always think about 10 or 12 or 30. I have ADD, so literally diagnosed. I have ADD since I was 8. So like really to the point where I'm probably going back on medication for it in the next couple of months. So like I have a tendency to be like, ooh, plastic bag, 2.5 swapped Amazon, like, ooh, plastic bag within a 2-second span. Like that's how my brain works. So I don't really, and a lot of people with ADD, they hyperfixate on stuff. Like I'm the opposite. I don't hyperfixate on things. I like bounce around constantly. I can't concentrate on things. I don't have that hyperfixation. Like I know one of Chad's dream builds is putting a K motor, a Honda K motor, in a Datsun 510, which is so cool. And I really hope I hit the lottery, or one of us hits the lottery, to be able to like do that, because it just sounds like an epic build, like a 9,000 horse, or no, 9,000, not that, that's not that has no horsepower. That'd be insane. 9,000 RPM, screaming K swapped 510 sounds like the most ridiculously amazing thing in the best way possible. Like I want to see that happen for us in every way imaginable. But like I don't know if I have really a dream modern build for in that sense. Like I certain cars I gravitate to that are modern. Like C6 Z06 is one that we both love, right? Mm-hmm. Like I love that car, but I wouldn't swap that. Like I would take a C6 Z06 and build it out, but not put turbos on it or a supercharger on it. I would want to do like the gnarliest NA build imaginable to keep the sound. But like in that car, you don't need more power. Like you need more aural, like A-U-R-A-L.
You heard it.
Like
Greg needs more oral.
I need more oral. Gooya. No, I need more oral. Right. Like I need more accosting of my ears. Like so like disgusting cam, horrifically amazingly loud headers, like, exhaust that's going to like shatter the rings of Saturn. Like that's what I would do to a C6 Corvette.
You better get on that. The rings of Saturn are
disgustingly amazing build ever. What?
So you better get on that. The rings of Saturn are dissipating. You only have a couple millennia to get on that.
I have well beyond a billion years. We're fine.
No, but I get that. Like that Corvette with a big. I would go straight to Texas Speed. They have a LS that's LS7. Well, I guess it's just an LSX because like they make 427 out of 4.8 blocks.
Right.
But it's 440 cubic inches. And I think has the potential for 700 NA horsepower. Like you put a fat cam on that. So like, that I always wanted a car with a cam that literally like it's that scene from the movie or that scene from a commercial where like you're just sitting at a stoplight and the lope is such that the windows in the store next to you are shaking.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not like a biggest fan of lope. I just like just screaming engines. So like. Andrew has an interesting point. I'm going to get on in a second from YouTube. But like just like a screaming, like flat plane crank Corvette, like would be pretty cool. Like so something like that would be a really cool build.
Well, if you want screaming, my friend, have you happened to? They build Coyotes. So let me put it this way: if I did basic headwork to my car, porting, polishing, retainers, springs, valve, like just rebuild the whole top end of the motor, right? You can get about 8,000 RPM out of one. If you build it to race spec and you delete like cam phasers, so you delete the variable valve, Ford's VTEC as it were, you can get Cletus's new race engine that he put in McFlurry, which is his Fox, they set the rev limiter at 9,500 RPM.
That's pretty sick.
It is insane. I highly recommend you guys go check out his latest video on that. Like James in his unrefined self, which will lead right into Andrew's comment on YouTube, said it sounded like an F1 engine. Now it doesn't, but it sounds damn near like a 1,500 horsepower freaking old V8 supercar. Like, you know how those V8 supercars scream? Like, they have just that different note. Like, it sounds like that. And like, that's why I always thought, like, if we're talking a somewhat like cost no object build on a car, just a pissed off Coyote would fit that screaming V8 build. I mean, you want loud? You've heard my car. And that's
and it sounds glorious, but that would be a screaming engine.
Block. Like,
it's
mostly oil pump gears and cam sprocket. But
yes.
But Andrew said, I'm not sure why. I always see the F-Type as a fancy, more expensive Mustang. Funny you mentioned that because it kind of has the feeling of British Mustang.
It's pretty accurate. You get so again, Chad owns a Mustang. We've both driven F-Types. Sitting in an F-Type, you don't get the same experience you do as sitting in a Mustang because there's a sense of occasion that you're in a Jaguar. It's something special because there's like luxury.
It's the difference between drinking coffee and tea.
Yeah, correct. That's a great actual explanation for it because when you sit in a Mustang, you do see like more hood louvers. You see like big fenders. Not so much like when you're in a 911 where you get like the big light fenders like on the left and right. And you're like, ooh, I'm in a 911. This is cool. But like you get the big hood bulge, you get fenders. But in like when you're sitting in an F-Type, all you kind of see is just the top of the bonnet. It's like
hood.
It's a more understated Mustang in that respect.
Well, it's American brashness versus British refinement.
Correct, and that's exactly what it is. Like
both you're of them a little bit of a bougie individual.
So like an F-Type, if people call it like a sports car or a refined car, they're kind of wrong. It really is a muscle car from Great Britain. It honestly, when you bring it down to like,
it's a modern take, like
right.
Modern muscle cars, maybe not Mopar notwithstanding, but they're the truest to the ethos of the old school muscle car. Biggest engine, most power, shoehorn it in the chassis it'll fit into, kind of a deal. But like
Anthony, welcome back.
Look at the V8 Mercs, right? Look at the V8, like your Aston Martin was.
Sorry, I just had an idea for my ideal modern car. Go.
Look, your Aston Martin, even to an extent, like okay, so it had that breath of British refinement to it, but let's be honest here. It had the mirrors. It had the mirrors from a XC90. It had the infotainment system from a C30. Just different colors. It's the exact same. It's just put differently. The key is even Volvo. It's just cut differently. Like,
yeah.
Actually, it's not even cut differently. The key fob, literally, if you peel it back, as Tavares showed on your old Aston Martin, it is a Volvo key fob.
Literally says Volvo.
Volvo sat nav, like all that stuff. So it's like it's slightly nicer and like, but like most of your modern. And I'll go one step further. Your modern front engine crossplane V8s have a breath of muscle car to them. It's just
totally.
How much money are they trying to squeeze at you? So the Jaguar has, I would freely admit, a nicer interior.
Oh, definitely a nicer
than
interior.
Even the nicest of the Mustangs. But it's
that's not a question.
The Mustang,
it's a much nicer interior.
God damn it! Get out of there. The Mustang interior in my car compared to you take interiors as a whole in 2015 and you look at mine as opposed to the previous generations of Mustang and their peers. Mine, it's much, much closer to everything else than it used to be.
Yes.
And
because Mustangs have come a long way internally. In on the actual cabin.
And I mean,
that's correct.
I challenge anyone to take a modern Mustang and put it up against front engine V8 sort of not supercar. So like remove the AMG GT from the equation and tell me what's different. Like from an engineering standpoint,
not much.
Independent rear suspension. Dual overhead cam V8, advanced, a red line over 7.
Same.
We just get ours with a manual box, and y'all are jealous.
I mean, if I have a 550 horsepower car, I don't care what transmission it comes with. I will not be jealous. I will go buy a Miata if I want a manual transmission car to have fun with on the twisties on a weekend. I do not give. If I own an F-Type, I don't give a shit. Quite frankly, I would give a shit if I got the V6 though, because I would want the V6 with the manual. But the V8 couldn't care less, because that car, at least to me, that car is like ear pornography. It is literally just one of the best sounding cars of all time, stock out of the box. And I think you'd agree with that. Stock out of the box is one of the best sounding cars of all time, with no modifications.
The F-Type,
because
I mean, for stock, the F-Type sounds better than the S550 Gen 1 before the body refresh. 100%. One of my biggest complaints with the S550 Mustang when I first drove it back at like test days, we had a presser, all that other stuff, was the exhaust was muted, which is insane because the Coyote is loud as fuck when you unshackle it.
Right.
Like ear-shatteringly loud, which is awesome. I mean, let me put it to you this way: as someone who has a car with substantially more horsepower than 550 and a manual box,
yes, an entire other car on top of 550.
Yes, I mean, if we're going crank, I make a little over 800.
800, yeah, exactly.
So, I will say this: if you get the right suspension, the right tires, and the right brakes, it's. So here's the trade-off. Why do I think the Datsun 510 build with a screaming only 360 horsepower K motor is such an amazing build idea? Is again, you could get closer. You could get 7/10, 8/10 out of it without doing go to jail speeds. For me, I run into that problem at the top of second gear. And with that level of power, with that much torque and everything, like with the R888Rs on it, even though they're noisy as fuck, arguably the best purchase I've made on that car from a simple standpoint of it allowed me to enjoy way more of the car. The NT05s were great when I only had 500 crank. They were plenty grippy. These things are insane at how well they grip. And how well they manage power. Now you do have to get heat in them. It's not like I can literally sit here and get in my car and get on her, because even if the engine's up to temp, if I'm just puttering along in traffic, that's a good way for wheel spin. But the fact that they are almost disconcertingly grippy based on when I got on it with the NT05s. When I got on the NT05s, it was like, okay, right at the cam switch over, it would knock the tires loose. Yeah. First, obviously. Second, third, and even chirp a little in fourth.
Yeah.
With these, they grip to the point where I'm like, I guess I'll stay in it. Like, waiting for the tire. It's... They're insane. If you're looking for the last word in performance, not necessarily like livability, they're the best tire I have ever owned. And out of all the tires we have ever owned at Shifting Lanes, from a pure performance perspective, they're the best tire.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Andrew, really quick on YouTube said, I sat in an AMG GT last year, and that takes me as such an intimidating car to drive with the power. The long hood, it feels like you're sitting in line with the rear wheels, and visibility is bad. So I'm going to go ahead and disagree with everything you just said. As someone who has driven that car, you're 100% correct when you sit in it or when you're looking at it from the outside. But when you start to drive that car, because Chad and I have both driven that car. We've driven the AMG GTS. I was able to drive the AMG GTR, which is very cool. And I did that back to back with the E63 AMG on track.
Both driven the S and the R.
Did you drive the R? I didn't realize that.
I had more time in the S on track than because I kept going back because it was so much fun. It is so. Yeah. It was. So, that's why like it's on my list of cars that I could give a fuck about transmission. Like it is that fun.
Yeah.
And to the point you're about to make.
It's an interesting car because, like you said, on the outside and when you sit in it, it's very intimidating. You're like, oh man, I don't know if I can drive this. And then you start to drive it and you realize that the chassis balance, the grip, the handling all work so well together that none of that matters. Because the way the car is weighted and the way the car performs is it's not an ass kicking, like the ass doesn't kick out, and it's not one of those cars that you're just like, oh man, it's so intimidating to drive. It's actually very easy to drive, and it's very easy to drive more fast towards the limit than it is a lot of other cars.
Yeah.
It's more difficult to drive a Miata to the limit than that car is to the limit, because a Miata, you really have to kind of know how to drive in a way that to get the amount of performance out of a Miata, you have to be an extremely good driver to be able to do that. To be able to get 0.8 out of a GTS, you have to be an above average driver because the car is just that good. It is one of those cars where until you drive it, you kind of don't understand.
Right. It's very Porsche.
It won Best Driver's Car the year it came out for many different reasons. And you don't really see that a lot for big front end GT cars, but that car specifically, like as a driver's car, like again, my dream car, attainable dream car is an F-Type. The AMG GTS is way beyond an F-Type as far as a driver's car is concerned. F-Type is a great sports car, great GT car, good driver's car. The AMG GTS is in a completely different league as far as performance and sports car nature is concerned in that same category.
Yeah, so I have a great story with the
And sorry, you tell your story. I got to go.
Godspeed. So the reason, and look, when you sit in a car, like that's a lot to it, and don't want to make it seem like we're kind of dunking on your opinion here. It's just one of those high-end cars that we have extensive experience driving. I had the GTS, and we were on track. And when we were on track for the first day, like I didn't really do much else other than just kind of be this instructor who was a licensed GT3 racing driver. So like now the top tier GT class globally. It is, and we were going, and these instructors, if you listen to them, they will slowly get you faster. You know, gas, 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 brake, brake, brake. Like you're almost, if you listen to them, you're almost a remote control car and they're controlling it. We were pushing it and we were on track with a few other cars, and he held me back because we were going in like 30-second intervals, 10 or 20 or 30-second intervals. And he holds me back and we go. This is one of like fourth or fifth time out. And we're pushing it. We go around, we do the first lap. He goes, okay, go. He's pushing me. So at Monticello Racetrack, there's a bus stop. And one of the rules they told you was at no point you will literally be asked to leave if you drop a tire, in the grass. Well, my instructor is pushing, and he did this with a few other individuals who they had the confidence in you to do it. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. That's not the point of this story. I dropped the tire in the grass at full power. So you think pavement grip, grass grip. That thing just, it was unreal. It was one of the easiest supercars to drive fast that I've ever driven. The 570 McLaren was very similar for all different reasons. That thing just, it was just was the speed. It was insane. But if I won the lottery, the AMG GTR would be one of the cars in that sort of 5-car garage kind of a thing, right? Like my Mustang will always be there. The AMG GTR will always be there. Some form of high horsepower, Baja inspired Raptor TRX type with a V8 would be in there. And then probably a rotating door of projects because, again, car ADD. But it's that good of a car. Like it used to be for me, like I love like the GT3 Porsche like so much just because of how it's a massive V6. It's a 4-liter V6. Massive V6. V6 sizes you only really see in like SUVs. And it revs past $9,000 and sounds insane. I love that. But I love the AMG GTR more. Andrew over on YouTube. Yeah, 7/10 in the Polestar is getting to or at go to jail speeds. That kind of makes it difficult to enjoy. Definitely has to be the right place at the right time to enjoy. That's what I said with like my Mustang. Like you can definitely enjoy it. And if like you roll into the throttle and like the most fun thing about that car is obviously the acceleration. But it's when it goes quiet. And what I mean by that is that under low load, just kind of driving around town, all that other sort of stuff, you can hear the blow-off valve being open because it's a centrifugal supercharger. So it's not like a turbo where the wastegate can control not making boost. It will make boost, whatever. It's the blow-off valve's job to keep it in or out of the engine. So you hear that constant sort of noise, but when you get on it, it goes quiet. So that's when you know you're into boost. So that's awesome. And it's very much accompanied by a thump, right? But the really cool thing is when you lift off and you go into a braking zone, you get that turbo blow-off valve noise of psh, and it's not like a psh, like on a turbo, it's psh, until you get back on it again. It's one of the coolest noises. You combine that with the fact that I don't have straight cut gears, but I'm damn close. In the transmission, so it whines a little bit, not obnoxiously, but it whines a little bit. It's like that's where the fun is. It's like the ancillary noises, because again, if I want to, kind of go on like our favorite test route or a good road, I'm either not getting up in the rev range or I'm in second gear, and then now I really got to pay attention because it's not difficult to break the tires loose, even as good as they are. Anywho, Andrew, again, it probably also didn't help that it was October. I'm at Washington on summer tires. Even though it wasn't forecasted, it started snowing, and it was supposed to be 65 today. The Kankamangas Highway, I probably butchered the pronunciation, technically. Yeah, that's the thing. Here, out, we have a cold week, so not really getting to enjoy the Mustang too much. It's cold. Probably the summers are coming off in the next few weeks, depending. I would really like to get to, before they close for the season, a Saturday or Sunday test and tune, because we do have data we need to acquire at the track to make sure, to refine a few things as far like the tune is bang on and right. We just need to I don't know what the best way to describe it is. Get some data, and basically the thought process. If you watched my video, the full video, basically when I go to the track now, last time I went to the track, the exhaust came off right after the header, or right before the cat actually. So I blew that off. We couldn't figure out a legitimate reason as to why cats weren't clogged, all that. So basically, from here out, we data log all my polls, and we kind of go from there. The dog found its bone. You enjoying that, buddy? Yeah, you could care less. So, but that's why if I could sit here and tell you, like I said, I started it with my 5-car garage. The Mustang's going to be in there, a GTR, AMG is going to be in there. The 510 build is going to be in there, and I don't know. Again, that fifth car is probably going to be something that rotates a lot, or what have you. But it's horses for courses. Like the Mustang would eventually be the track monster. GTR would be my fast, fun sort of supercar. And even so, with that, I'd probably have it for a year or two, then go for like an MC20 or something. But like, again, if I sat here and asked every single person in chat who's watching to list right now, as it sits, you can only have 5 vehicles. What are they? And for some of you, life may dictate that you have to have an SUV, or you might have to have a wagon or something like that. I am unencumbered with children. So, but since he's back, and we have about 10-ish minutes or so, Gregson.
Yes.
You're right now, as it sits, 5-car garage. Go.
My 5-car garage? Ooh. All right. Is money no object?
Money no object.
Money no object. Okay. So first thing, I need something to haul the kiddies around in. I'm probably getting an AMG G-Wagon or a Range Rover of some kind. I'll go AMG G-Wagon because I love the boxy. Big fan of that.
Loves the box.
Love the box. Just because it's cool. It's a cool car. The people were like, yeah, it's a soccer mom car, but I don't care what people think about my cars. I'll buy. If I was really into Volkswagen Beetles, I would buy one. I don't care what other people think. So G-Wagon, probably AMG G-Wagon as my family runabout. Let's see. I would definitely have an F-Type R. Probably if money no object, I'd probably get the SVR just because it sounds insane. That would be my normal daily GT. If I'm getting 5 cars, that's 2. I'll probably have another sports car of some kind, and I'm probably going to go more towards the supercar category. I would probably get a Aston Martin Vanquish, not the new one that they're redesigning, but the one from 2014 to 2018. I know it's another front-engine GT car, but it's a V12. It's arguably, in my opinion, one of the best looking cars ever made, if not the best looking car ever made. I really love that car. So that's 3. Probably get another family hauler of some kind, but a fast, cool wagon, just because I love those. And I'd probably go RS6, just because they're sweet. And the M5 wagon is coming to the States, and we don't know what it is yet. So at this point in time, I'd have to go RS6. And then last one, oh man, I don't know. I got 2 family haulers. I got a sports car. I got a supercar. Probably have an old, cool built car of some kind. And I know that it would make my wife happy if I had this. A 69 Camaro, just because it's her favorite muscle car of all time. And life's just better with a 60s muscle car. And a 69 Camaro is probably up there as probably one of the all-time greatest muscle cars ever made. So I'd go with a 69 Camaro SS, blue with the white stripes, because you kind of have to if you're getting that car. You're muted. I can't hear you.
You're so cliche.
It's a great car.
If the one you get doesn't have a 396, I'm walking over and punching you.
Doug, family can walk. It's just a great comment. Family can walk. Yeah, but you know what? The 2 family cars I got are fun. Because
I mean, not for nothing,
you can go off-roading in the AMG.
Yeah.
And the RS6 is a fast family hauler, which is great.
I mean, not for nothing, a Raptor has 4 doors. That's my family car.
True. So and my opinion would change once I lose car seats, I think. Yeah. Because once my kids are old enough to not have car seats or just boosters, I think it's a totally different ballgame. Because then you can get like a 4-door truck and have no problems. But like a Raptor with car seats, I've seen them in there. They fit. but they're not. It's not the most ideal scenario.
What are you talking about? You are not going to be. Your kids are going to be safer in a Raptor than they are an XC90. Body on frame, lifted. Basically, any accident you get in, the person you hit is going under you.
Maybe. I don't know. If you hit an XC90 in a Raptor, probably not.
But, real quick, I do want to touch on two more things before we wrap up. One, get to chat.
Doug.
Anthony goes in.
I'm sorry. It's so good.
We'll get there, Doug. Don't you worry.
I know. It's
Noble M600 would be in Anthony's stable. Doug's would be a Pullman Roadster, an Auburn 851, AMX3, Lambo Coutances, and its Stutz Bearcat. I know 3 of those cars.
Yeah, what the shit is a Stutz Bearcat? It sounds amazing. I don't even need to know what it is. The name just sounds awesome.
Knowing Doug, it probably runs on Sanskrit. Andrew over on YouTube goes 5-car garage 122 S60R SCG. That would be a Scuderia Glickenhaus 03S, newer D-Max, and a 911 GT3. And then to Doug's comment of the evening, once my kids are old enough to walk, is what I'm hearing. Fantastic. And then lastly, we'll wrap it up with a real quick Volvo question. Andrew asks, I do have a question for Greg. I still have 2 years and 50,000 miles left on my S60 Polestar's drivetrain warranty. I really want to start modifying the 2-liter for more power, but just don't know if it's a risk taking with a risk being $10K for a new engine and the fact that I paid decent money to be protected by said warranty. I'll give my quick 2 cents on that.
Before you give your 2 quick cents, because I want him to answer this question while you're answering, Andrew, is the Polestar your daily driver? Please comment. Chad, go.
Feel like you don't have to, because that's irrelevant. Because Greg refuses to get a bigger turbo that would make his car run better.
Very relevant question.
Not. Listen, 800 horsepower daily driver. Just saying. At any rate, here's the thing. If you have 10K left on the warranty, where does that fall in your average miles per year? If you're in the national average, that's with sometime between the next 10 months, the warranty runs out. Number 2,
he has 2 years and 50,000 miles left on the warranty.
10K for the
new engine is about $10,000.
Here's what I'll say with that. If you really have to ask yourself the question of what are you looking to get out of it modifying wise, i.e., do you want that 10 to 15% notice? Because here's the thing. If you're looking at mods that aren't going to add 10 to 15% to the power, so what do those cars make? Roughly like 300 horsepower rated from factory? Something like that? Or 350?
Wait, the 2017s?
Yeah.
362.
362. So you're thinking you need to add about 40 horsepower to feel it. Because if you're anything less than that, you're not going to feel it. You might get the placebo effect, but you're not going to actually feel it in the butt dyno, at which point, to me, it's not worth risking the warranty. That said, there's a lot of complication in those engines, but given that there's a turbocharger involved, my guess would be downpipe, exhaust, pretty basic. With the tune, you can add that requisite 40. It's eminently reversible, and things like that. Other than that, just get good tires, and you'll notice yourself being able to enjoy 7/8 of the car more.
So Andrew responded to my question as Chad was talking. It wasn't until I snapped the timing tensioner bolt off the block of my CRV. I did 8,000 miles in my first year of ownership. I would be happy with low to mid 400 wheel. So here's the thing. Low to mid 400 wheel horsepower in this car is going to be difficult to attain. Because There's not a ton of aftermarket for it, unless you're putting a hybrid turbo on it. You're probably not going to get 400 wheel, or 400 to mid 400 wheel. And you also have to account for in your car that it's twin charged. So any turbo upgrade you make, you probably have to do an equivalent or normal supercharger upgrade of some kind as well. So pulleys, tuning, whatever.
In those cars, because where does the boost go? Is the supercharger? My guess is the turbo feeds the supercharger.
The turbo drives everything. The supercharger fills gaps.
So
it's the same setup as this.
So the boosted.
It's the same setup as in a McLaren P1, but the supercharger acts as the battery pack.
So the air out of the compressed air out of the turbo just goes directly into the intake. Same for the supercharger.
Correct. Yes, and Doug can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I believe yes.
So here's my thought on that: pulley, downpipe. If the engine goes, go get a turbocharged engine, and then just work from there. If that's the case.
Actually, you know what? I think I might be wrong. I think the turbo I think a supercharger kicks in lower RPMs and the turbo kicks in higher RPMs.
That's what I'm thinking.
So they fill two separate gaps.
Most twin charge cars, the supercharger comes on early, and then it kind of just runs out of efficiency, and that's where the turbo picks up. So
I think that's it. That's actually I think correct.
So you just want to move that graph along, right? Like the supercharger, right. There's a lot of tune. So with that type of engine, I would be very cautious. So in the fact that tuning that thing, I mean, number one, tuning your car was a logistical nightmare. Tuning something that has two different forms of boost that come on at two different stages sounds complicated as fuck to me. Now, if there's people doing it, I would follow their recipe. It just comes down to the point of, I don't know what these motors can handle internally. 400 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot at the wheels, but you're probably talking all-wheel drive, right? You're probably talking 475 crank, roughly, give or take. So that's pushing a lot of four cylinders from factory, and I know a lot of Volvo engines, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but my experience with some Volvo engines, like the P1 white block, right? Like when you start knocking on the door of 400 horsepower, that's when problems start to persist. Similar to you in the white block in the VR and things like that. So, honestly, I missed the part about your daily situation. I'm sorry, but this is the one part where, like, I don't know, man, if I would start with something that's going to get you that 10 to 15% bump, and go from there. But it's a lot, because that just, so when people twin charge, so when people were turbocharging the Ford GTs that had the supercharger on them, right? The return of the GT, so to speak. The turbocharger, turbos made their boost and fed the supercharger, and the supercharger then compressed that air. Which made tuning easy because you had an ultimate boost number, right? And you only had to worry about the wastegates and the bypass valve in the supercharger. And even then, those superchargers weren't really manipulating boost too much with bypass valves. Just saying.
So, look, if you want my honest opinion,
cocaine.
Don't modify your car. Don't modify your car. Don't void the warranty. The way that these cars they are extremely good enthusiast daily drivers. That is probably where they should stay. As someone who's modified one, not your 4-cylinder, but with a 6-cylinder, I wouldn't do it again. I would keep this thing stock, just because it is a car that is very good from factory, that can be bettered from factory with rolling of the fenders, wider track, better suspension handling, i.e. do some KW V3 coilovers, some chassis bracing, some strut tower bracing, things like that. Make it a better handling car. That will actually be able to afford you to drive it to 7/10 or 8/10, even more than power will. So make it a better handling car because it's a heavy car. Like these are close to 4,000 pounds. So make it a better handling car first, and that won't void your warranty. It's because if it's a powertrain warranty, well, if something fails on the suspension, they'll be damned if they're going to void a powertrain warranty because you can literally take them to court over that and win because it has nothing to do with your powertrain. So my suggestion as an owner and as an enthusiast would be don't modify your car. Run out that warranty. If you still own the car, then modify it. If you really want to modify something, sell your CRV and get a cheap enthusiast car that you can just throw cheap parts at, like an EK Civic hatch or something like that. Cheap Miata, because you could really sort of like dive deep into a cheaper enthusiast car while still having a really cool, badass daily driver that's just quick and can do really fun things with, while still modifying it in a way that you're not voiding the warranty. That's my suggestion.
Right, and then
and also
I just want to touch this. Andrew, you go first. You did mention it. 420 crank is where, quote unquote, to quote Andrew, a mystery. Anything beyond that. I would almost, and Doug will correct me, I don't know the turbo 2-liter 4-cylinder that is just turbocharged. If they're the same engine, just boost is applied differently, I'd almost look for something like that and play around with that.
Yeah.
Then I would try to add power to something where, like, if you start really getting too much, too crazy, like 420 crank is only 60 horsepower over factory.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
That is
like I put a downpipe and tuned this. I can't really tell the difference, quite frankly.
And well, that's because your engine actually seeks out hot air.
Right, but like it's not enough for me to be like, yes, do it to anyone else. I would say, right. Well, just keep it stock. The biggest. So there's no real point, quite frankly.
Like, here's the thing: if you enjoy the car as it sits, I would throw new tires at it and then see how that feels, and then go the handling route, like Greg mentioned. If you want like the placebo effect, I'm sure there's an exhaust. If not, I'm sure you could contact a guy like 88 Fab, and he probably has a template. Probably, not guaranteed, but like he's who I would go to for any sort of exhaust work on, especially Volvos, even though he does everything. So you get a little bit different tone, a little bit gnarlier tone. So again, that's the placebo effect. It makes you seem like you're going faster. That's what makes the Mustang so interesting to drive, because at like 3,500 RPM, people are looking at me like, dude, get off. Stop flooring it. I'm like 10% throttle. Leave me alone. You want me to floor it? Because then you will know.
Then I will go sideways and see you as I spin around, look at you, and go in reverse.
So he has V3s on it. He has a strut bar, and he has P4s for summer tires. So like,
yeah.
I mean, you've pretty much maxed out there. I would seek out. So one of the most valuable things I had when I was doing the C30 was Rich Forsyth and a community of people who knew that car and had kind of known its limits. I would come damn close to guaranteeing you that if you pinged Rich Forsyth on the C30 group on Facebook, like, hey, I have a question, Rich, I heard you were, or seek him out and Facebook message him, like, hey, I don't want to bother you. If it's too big of a deal, I understand. Don't worry about it. But Rich has helped me. He has helped Greg. He's helped the last 3 owners of the freaking C30 after I owned it. Like, he's an awesome dude. And if anybody knows the limitations and what to do mod-wise with these cars, he will at least know the basics, or he will know the person that you should reach out to. And go from there. But like, before I did anything to the engine, I would make sure, I would almost do the reverse of, like, Greg got screwed because he thought he had Hilton. They disappeared. He thought he had someone else. Tune was that and all this other sort of stuff. Like, reach out and find out if someone tunes these cars. Reach out and find out if the turbo is classic Volvo and woefully undersized. Like, find out those two things first, because those are going to be limiting factors. And if no one tunes these things, all you really can do is put a muffler on it, because without a tune, an exhaust or a downpipe won't work. It'll actually make your car run worse. Like all this sort of stuff. So find out someone who tunes them, and then go from there. Doug asks if A8 found a buyer. I don't know. I hadn't found out. That's a good point. I haven't found it. But Andrew, like I said, find out who tunes your car. Get people who have experience with them to give you their impressions of them, and then go from there. And if you get a green light there, I would look into, because obviously you want it at the high end, would be my guess. Then I would look downpipe tune, or downpipe exhaust, and go from there.
I agree with Chad on that point, but full transparency, as an owner, don't modify your car. I would not. It's not worth it. It's the extra horsepower is not going to be noticeable.
Right.
And I would say just ride out the warranty, because if something does happen to your car, you have the warranty to back you up. But I wouldn't do it, quite frankly. I wouldn't. I bought this car out of warranty, and it's still out of warranty. It's been amazingly reliable for me, even with the modifications. The only thing that's ever gone wrong on this car is a bad O2 sensor, and that's only because I swapped the downpipe, because we broke the O2 sensor when it happened. That's it. Right. Everything else has been perfect. I would not modify your car, period. And one thing I want to point out, when you just said, but KT4 does make forged rods and pistons, but to get them to build you an engine is $16K. Don't ever buy anything from KT4. KT4 is nothing but a scam. They are literally a scam company that basically just buys parts from somewhere else, mostly China, and it is horrible quality, and it is rebranded as them. KT4 as a company is dog shit. Don't ever buy anything from KT4. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a keychain. Don't support that business. They are scam artists, and they are garbage as humans. They truly are. For most of the conversations I've had with them, and most of the conversations that the entire Volvo community has had with them, they are terrible. Do not ever buy anything from KT4. Full stop. The end. That's it.
Yeah. Hey, look, I echo that. Don't support bad companies. Greg said it perfectly. But I also understand, like, where, Greg, you're coming from an aspect of you're not going to notice it, you're not going to feel it, do this, that, and the other thing. Here's the thing. Sometimes it's you got to do it. Sometimes you just got to look yourself in the mirror and realize, you know what? My Mustang only makes 450 horsepower at the wheels. I need to put 200 more into that. You know,
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that Greg makes a great point. So if you want that sort of that placebo effect, put an exhaust on it. You'll love the sound. Yes. But make sure it's someone reputable, and make sure you go through and you use quality parts, because a 4-cylinder without the right resonator and without the right mufflers sound like ass. I mean, just look at the range at which Honda 4-cylinders can sound. You have really good sounding ones, and you have ones that literally sound like there's 10,000 bees in the muffler. Like,
yep,
it's awful.
Yeah,
like that would be a good spot to like give you that sensation of yes. There's more. Like, exhaust is always a great mod because it sets your car apart. It kind of unrefines it, and I love that.
Yeah.
If you want to chase,
if you're really looking for that, I would recommend selling your car and getting the 6-cylinder.
That's the other thing. I don't know where values sit,
honestly,
but you still haven't let me drive your car, even though I have offered you numerous times to drive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I know.
But here's the thing.
Yeah, my job sucks and I have no time.
Yeah, I'm doing a burnout in front of your house tomorrow.
I'm okay with that. Please do that.
But here's the thing. Like, all of the things Greg's saying is 100% correct and accurate. If that's your baby, you've put the time and energy into the suspension. You've put your time and energy and money into that car. I get the wanting to modify your car. People can sit here and tell you to go buy something else, but if it's your car and you want to modify it, this is the route I would take. Like you said, Rica was a go-to for the 4-cylinders. I would get as much information on them. I would get their turnaround time, and I would talk to as many people as you can who have their tunes, and even see if they'll let you, if they're local to you or somewhere, or you see them at a meet, if they'll let you take their car for a little bit of a spin. Because guess what? That's your free preview on the car, right? Like whether or not tuning it's going to be worth it, like Greg mentioned, or something like that. But at the very least, get their feedback. If their turnaround's like 6 months, that's a company that scares the crap out of me, and I would stop. If they have quick turnaround and their tunes are actually legit, go for it, man. I'm not going to never tell someone not to modify a car or sell their car and get something else. Like, I don't care what you drive. If you have the desire and that car means something to you and you want to modify it, go for it. And I'm not saying Greg is saying is shitting all over your hopes and dreams. I'm not trying to put it in that respect.
Right.
Greg is by far and away the much more logical thinker when it comes to cars and stuff like that out of the two of us. I am the passion person of it. I have the person that is, if you can do it and it doesn't set you back financially from your other responsibilities, if you have kids, if you have a wife, if you have a mortgage, if you have this, if you have that. You said you were saving up to get a house, man. Like, if all of that stuff can still happen whether you modify or unmodify your car, then go for it. Just do it the smart way, because nothing sucks more than modifying your car, it not getting the intended result, and worst case, it makes your car worse.
Yeah,
that is the ultimate kick in the nuts to any car guy, and especially anybody who likes modifying cars, like I do. Greg enjoys it, but not even. I don't think Greg has added as much horsepower to all of the cars he's ever owned in the history of his life as I have to arguably my C30, definitely the Mustang.
Just the Mustang.
Mustang.
That's a great point. Like, I'm speaking logically. Like, if you want to do it, go ahead. Like, and if you can afford like $10,000 for a replacement engine, like, by all means, go for it. But like, and quite frankly, like the reality is, like, are you going to like modify your car and your engine's going to explode? The odds are against that, quite frankly. Like, the amount of people that modify their cars, like, in a mild capacity, which is what we're talking about here. Like, oh, cool, upgraded intercooler, which again probably isn't going to blow any engines. It's actually helping your car. A tune,
well, that would actually,
again, probably not going to do anything. And maybe a few more things. Like, the amount we're talking here is not going to be like excruciating to your engine. It really isn't. So quite frankly, like, if you want to go ahead and do it, sure. And to Anthony's point of like the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, like, that people have to prove that was the thing that destroyed your engine. Yes, that happens. But like, look, like, if you're modifying your engine and then all of a sudden it explodes, it probably is what you're doing to your engine that's making it do that. The odds are that it's not going to do that. There are far more people that have good stories than bad stories. You just hear more about the bad stories because of people that are complaining online, or the notoriety that brings.
So most cars,
if you want to do it, go for it. But I would recommend against it, just because you have a warranty, and right now at this point in time, it's your daily driver. If you had that CRV and it's running perfectly or whatever, and you had another car on the side, yeah, go ahead and do it. If this is going to be your performance car and you have a reliable daily driver, well, then F it. Just do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to this. Like, number one, like Anthony's saying, like, Anthony says, like, if your warranty cannot be voided due to modification, but only if the modification can be proven as the cause. And they go out of their way to prove that it is the cause. Keep that in mind.
Right.
But ARD will blow up your engine. Sorry, I had to. Andrew goes, I'm definitely more with ARD. Greg's mindset. Ouch, hurts. Haven't touched it yet, so I figured to ask him first since he did it to his S60. Oh, right. I was like, S60.
It's a V60. Get it right.
Pedantic, Jack. It's not like the back half of your car. I shouldn't.
What do you mean pedantic? It's a wagon versus a sedan.
I mean, but I was gonna say is it's not like the obvious case that it is a wagon is your background, but
it's literally right here, man.
Here's the thing.
I joke. I'm kidding.
The concept of having a fun daily, like, and the project car, right? Like, financially, right. That's a tough ask because, like, it's, $20,000 for the second car, or
right,
20,000 hours for the second car, right?
Right.
Do you like? I tell people this all the time, like. Why I am into cars, and I feel like this is going to be a really good spot to wrap things up. But if you're concerned about your engine safety, contact Doug. He might be able to tell you the specs on like the rods, the crank, and all that other sort of stuff. I don't know if salesmen get that type of information, but he's the only Volvo employee in chat, so we'll go with that. Why I love cars so much is that there's infinite possibilities to make your car different. How many Polestars are there? Full stop. How many Polestars are modified? Full stop. Makes Greg's car cool. Even if you won't listen to logic and reason, bigger turbo. Son of a. How many Mustangs are there? Significantly more. How many boosted Mustangs are there? Probably more than all Polestars ever made. Pick a chassis. How many have a centrifugal supercharger? Number gets smaller. How many have a centrifugal supercharger with built trans and a built drive? Like, like I mean? Like, my car, you could technically call it a sleeper Mustang. Like, because nothing from the outside of it tells you that it's been heavily worked on. Unless you happen to walk behind it and see the width on the tire. You're like, He's got 325 wide R888Rs. Why?
But even that. Honestly, wheels and tires are something that any Mustang owner can do.
Right. I'm just talking about the sheer size of it and the tires. So anyone who knows what they're like, to the average person, not gonna make a difference. To the person who knows something, they're gonna be like, either this person just really wanted that look, or there's more to this car. But like from the outside, if you look at the car's side profile, you're just gonna think it's every other Mustang. It just happens to carry the 365 more horsepower. It's, but like
an entire.
So if you want to modify
an entire V60 Polestar more than stock.
Not much, Steve. We're just giving Andrew over on YouTube a long-winded. He's like, I just wanted to know if this was possible, and now I'm like.
And now we're 30 minutes into this conversation.
Now it's like, do I really want to... Oh, I just need to go reevaluate it. Like, here's the thing. If you research it, it's well vetted, and you talk to people you trust, there's no such thing as a bad modification. Unless that modification is excessive camber and or Carolina squatting it. That's a bad very bad modification.
Don't ever do that.
But like...
Bad intelligence. Very bad intelligence.
You came into this wanting more power. Now you're thinking like I said, you'd be amazed at what an exhaust can do, like to a car, to your enjoyment of a car, if it's done properly. So, but again, what I love about cars is that you have infinite possibilities to make a car yours, make it an extension of your personality, or you can make it into something you wish you were, right? Like, I mean, okay, so I'm kind of loud. I don't know if I carry much power, but like, I'm kind of the wise ass. Greg's reserved and he's got a fast whack. Like, cars can be whatever you want them to be. Just do your research. Like, I know that's like sort of like I was looking for more of a straight answer, and Greg kind of gave it to you, but like that's my advice with modifying cars.
To close out, I will give you an alternate option. What you should do is not modify your car. But what you should also do is sell your car. Buy a $10,000 Lexus LS from the mid-2000s that will never, ever die. And then use the remainder of that money to buy a sports car of whatever the hell you want. The end. that's what you should do.
But let's just say, but again, let's just say live in a world where like that's his baby, and he wants that to beat the pants off of, let's just say, his neighbor 3 doors down with the obnoxiously loud Mustang. Like I'm trying not to put words into it, but like
in a realistic world, that car will never ever beat a Mustang that's modified ever.
No, but if let's just say the jack wagon, let's just say the guy's got a 4.6 in it. Your car is faster than a mod motor Mustang.
Sure, I'm talking S550 plus.
The S550 is a different animal because it has arguably the greatest American V8 ever created in it. Touched literally by the hands of Jesus. Literally every time I open my hood, the angels sing. But like,
yes.
But all I'm trying to say is that like the logic and reason is there, and there's an argument to be made for it. But I also get the appeal of, let me put it to you this way: if I owned your car, Greg, we'd be, my goal would be to get it to beat a stock S550, which you're not that far off of.
No,
you're 4/10.
Not too far.
And just again, like not to beat a dead horse, but bigger turbo will help in so many ways. But we're not here to discuss that.
I mean, turbo solves a lot of that.
To me, that's fucking awesome. That's crazy. Yeah. And like, I would totally understand someone who's like a Volvo enthusiast like yourself having that mentality as opposed to just, well, if I want to beat it, why don't I just go buy it? Because like your car probably sells for what, like $35K?
Yeah, I'd say as it sits,
you could go get an S550 GT with the premium package on it for that money.
Right. Yeah.
With a with all that stuff. So like, yeah. And then like an exhaust setup isn't that much money for it, right? So like, I get the sentiment of this is my car, this is my baby. I like the idea of it being faster than X. The whole is our Volvo faster than an E46 M3. So, and like to Steve's point,
too long, didn't read. Don't modify your car from me. Modify your car from Chad. The end.
Right.
He's over there.
And like in all things in life, do your research, be smart about it. Yes. But on that note, that's where we're going to call it for an evening, gentlemen. It's been a rather fantastic stream. We are now set up all of these live streams to as podcasts on the YouTube app. So if you missed anything, or you want to go back or if you missed part of the stream, or you just enjoyed the soothing tones of our voices,
yes,
you can go to the YouTube app and play them there. We are working on it. It's going to be a minute. We are trying to get on a more podcasty platform like a Spotify or what have you. But stay tuned for that. But as for tonight, guys, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you guys as always. And we'll catch you in the next one.